California. California.
You changed not only the words, but the music and the key.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And welcome back, folks. We took a week off, but now we're here, and now we're 2 years away. This week, we're 2 years away from tons of Marvel movies. I wrote this down wrong. Mike's cursor's on it, so I think he changed it to mess with me. But who am I? Who am I to say anything? But yes, we're gonna talk about Marvel movies, Mike. You know this. I sent something.
Yeah, we got a sizzle reel.
Yes, sizzle reel and some slates, if you know what I mean. We've also got some comic accurate costumes to get us hype for the next couple of years as well. The Bad Batch kicked off Star Wars for this year, finally, and more.
Yeah, I've been slacking a little bit. A couple weeks ago, I started watching Invincible over on Amazon Prime, and it's great. I loved it. But I haven't gotten back around to it. I think I only got about 3 episodes in. But there's been this meme going around on Twitter, like I want to say like the last week, where people put brackets around just literally anything, a photo of anything. It could be an abstract idea, it could be a literal idea, and you kind of break down this thing kind of in like a timeline. So it would be like I'm trying to think of like an example. Like, let's say like a giant party sub. So like the first bracket will be like, oh wow, this party sub's fun. Then the middle bracket would be like, oh, this is a lot of sandwich. And then like the last bracket might be like, oh, I'm a toilet for an hour or something like that. So I saw one for Invincible where the first bracket encompasses like maybe about the first bit of the show that I saw. And then the last bracket, that is the majority of the back half of the show that I haven't seen, apparently it gets really dark or it gets really crazy or like some insane stuff happens. So I really need to dip my toe back into Invincible, and maybe we'll end up talking about it here on the show.
The first season has wrapped up for anyone who doesn't know. So Invincible has wrapped up. And the other show that I know that we both have not watched on Netflix is Jupiter's Legacy, which just kicked off this weekend as well.
I was trying to describe that to my wife the other day because we were going out and we were grabbing some dinner to bring back home on Friday. And we're like, oh, Friday, it's like new TV show streaming day. And we're like, oh, what should we watch? And you're like, oh, we got new episodes of this and this and this, and like, oh, I think like Netflix. I think that new like superhero show just hit Netflix, and it's like called like Jupiter. I think I said Jupiter Ascending at first, and like she looked at me like, we're not watching that. I was like, no, it has nothing to do with that one movie. It's like totally different. Yeah. And then I had to describe to her like what Mark is it Mark Miller or Mark Millar?
It's Miller, but it's
Miller,
but it's spelled Millar. Yeah.
I was like, it's a Mark Miller thing, which Netflix bought it, and all you have to know is it's like the same creator that made like Kick-Ass, which she likes that. So but long story short, I still haven't seen it yet, so that's kind of pointless, but I think we got to get around to watching it. Yeah, because I am of the opinion that I watch everything on TV. I indulge in everything that's given to me, but I will most definitely watch anything that's expensive, anything that has a high budget, whether it's a genre or a show that I like. I just want to see how the money gets made. And when we watched the trailer for that show on the show the other week, I was like, oh, this looks like there's some money put into it, so I want to see what they're doing with it.
So I know the good part about Jupiter's Legacy is it was a limited series, right? Like much like Invincible, it's wrapped up kind of deal. Like you don't have to like, oh, is it going to catch up to what's currently being written, Game of Thrones style? So it's wrapped up as a 12-issue series back like almost 10 years ago. But what gets me is seeing Josh Duhamel and Leslie Bibb aged up doesn't look right. In all the promo shots, right? Like the older, like old man Josh Duhamel is not sitting well with me for some reason. I'm sure that there's the comic book and the show deals with flashbacks on how they got their powers and stuff like that. But like that image alone just kind of turns me off. So when you talk about budget spend, I'm like, they didn't spend it on the makeup. So I hope there's like, stuff done to make it look, better throughout. But also at the same time, again, we are both in the middle. Like, you have recently relocated homes. I'm in the middle of relocating homes.
It's the spring of moving. It's like not just the two of us. I feel like friends that we have are also like moving or shaking things up. So that's why we just had to take last week off for the you called it spring break. I called it finals week for Superhero Slate.
Then we call it the Derby break or something like that instead, because you said hats and I said the horse race, and I said fine, we'll meet in the middle. But
this is what happens when like a TV show's not on for a while. You got to do a recap of the last time.
Exactly. And the whole point of that is when you're in the middle of moving, there's very much a lot less time to sit down and take notes for a show. I'm going to be honest with you, but thankfully I put them in my phone before I put them in here, and then B, actually sitting down and watching something, because every time I do, I'm like, I should really be moving something or packing something like every time I sit down.
And one of the last things that you unfortunately watched was Mortal Kombat, and I've literally have already forgotten about that movie. That's one thing that we don't talk about on the show that much. If it's a superhero franchise movie, we'll revisit them or talk about them again in the future. But since Mortal Kombat is so unattached to a lot of the other films and TV shows that we talk about, like, I have no reason to recall or remember any of the information from that movie. So I probably won't think about Mortal Kombat again until there's a sequel possibly announced, or something along those lines. So that's probably not a good sign for the film that I've already forgotten about.
You've actually talked about it more than I plan to talk about it, so I think you're actually more obsessed with it than you are, Mike. Because what I did last weekend, I actually had to live in a hotel, again, why we didn't record. I actually played the Mortal Kombat 11. I went into the DLC, which is like, they added a whole story section called Aftermath, and I was like, okay, playing it. And what's cool is, I know you haven't revisited the original Mortal Kombat recently, correct?
No, I haven't.
So, but they used the character Shang Tsung. They used the actual actor model and voice the actor from the movie to do Shang Tsung's model and voice for the game.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he's all the people in the movie, like, the first movie is so B movie, but like, because the actors believe they're doing something great, it feels better, right? Like, that's what makes that. When you're trying to make a bad movie, you can tell they're doing it, but like, they're like, oh, we're making one of the best movies in the world, and like, he just sells it so good. So but they use his model and voice, so I was like, oh, that's a fun little throwback to deal with, or not deal with, but to handle and have. But I think the other thing is, to add on, I think they have actually gotten the people from the movie to record lines, like the Sonya Blade character, the possibly the Jax character. So I imagine seeing those skins come up as DLC in the game with those voice actors doing the lines.
I didn't even think about that, because that's a relatively low lift. There's not a whole lot of you just got to go in for like a body scan, a la Kitty Foreman of WandaVision. Get in front of those cameras and rotate around.
Oh, yeah. Probably just iPhones now. Those new ones have LiDAR. They probably just scan them with the phones. Like, all right, now you're going to be in the game. But like, it's one of those things. Like, now we don't have to wait for Mortal Kombat the movie, the game. They just throw in the one that's been out for 2 years.
Yeah, there you go.
But there's that. But you, it looks like you've been tagging into Netflix here. I've not got a chance to watch this. It was on my list, but
I had a chance to watch some stuff, so I won't spoil anything too much for you here. But the biggest one was Mitchell's versus the Machines. This is the Sony animated pictures movie, executive produced by the Russo brothers. No, not the Russo brothers. Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Sorry,
Miller.
I get those creative Titan duos confused all the time in my head. Their names. So Phil Lord and Chris Miller, as we all know from the Lego Movie, and I think more importantly, Spider-Verse. They also executive produced Spider-Verse as well. I think they literally actually directed the Lego Movie, right? They weren't.
Yeah,
EPs.
I think that was like their solo project that gave them the credence to do other projects.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that's what Mitchell's versus the Machines is, because it's a totally original idea, which probably they got off the ground with their clout over at Sony Animations Pictures, and the animation's just absolutely beautiful and creative. A totally different style that Spider-Verse was, but I would say the exact same levels of creativity. They just go off the walls. They do They do lots of kind of drawing overlays. They do some mixed media kind of puppet stuff every once in a while. So visually, you'll just be absolutely entertained. For me, the shortfall a little bit was the story. Even though there are some funny jokes every once in a while, I kind of got a similar vibe that I get when I watch like Leica kind of stop motion stuff, where it's like the animation project you're about to embark on is so laborious and so intensive and is going to take so much craft. You just kind of got to get the story done and written so you can hit the ground and start moving. And that's kind of the vibe I got a little bit with the Mitchells versus the Machines, of just like, oh man, if only they could have taken like maybe like another like half year or maybe a year to just kind of really get the script to something really great. We would have been off to the races. But that being said, for me, Mitchells versus the Machines is still like a solid like B+ overall. Like I definitely couldn't be over here like hating the movie. But you know, kind of when you it's almost kind of like the dueling fates of kind of like Pixar versus kind of what Sony Pictures Animation is doing, right? Like if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff on Pixar movies, those movies are just in development for like years and years and years. They are tooling those stories over and over and over and over again. And then they have a very specific pipeline for the animation. So that's kind of why some of the stuff over at Pixar looks, you know, the same. You know, over at, what the Phil Lord and Chris Miller are doing, they're just like, it's like all jazz, baby. They're just going crazy with the animation over there. So definitely an easy recommend, a watch. Half of the planet, you know, has Netflix already, so you already got a free admission to the movie over there.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's on Netflix. I mean, that's something I was hoping to dive into sooner than later. But like I said, there's no chance this week, or at least next week. So
yeah, well, it'll be there waiting for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Another thing that's waiting for you over there, Chris, at Apple Plus over there on the internet is Mythic Quest. The season 2 has returned.
That is on my Chris Flicks, just so you know. But yes,
gotcha.
I'm familiar with Mythic Quest.
Yeah, the first season, it took me a little bit to warm up to it. It took me a couple episodes to kind of get ingratiated with the. Ingratiated? Is that a word? Did I even say that right? I think that's a word. With the characters in the first season. The second season is starting a little slow too, but I'm still having a good time, so I'll be sticking around and checking in on Mythic Quest every week. They actually published another episode that I didn't even know about, like back in April. So I don't know what Apple's release plans or their creative strategy is, but you know, they ended up doing a quarantine special last year, which was really, really good. I thought they handled the tone and the setting of a pandemic really, really well. They did a creative kind of Zoom style episode. I think they did better than anybody else. Then they had this like 11th episode that was kind of like this weird kind of LARPing special. So who knows what's happening over at Mythic Quest, but it's a successful show. Apple has lots of money, so it's another type of show where you can see like, oh, where are they putting all this money? They're putting it in a lot of special effects cutaways.
I've seen a lot of Apple TV ads lately across like I mean, I guess maybe YouTube, I think, is where I'm seeing a lot of them at, because I don't pay for, like, a lot of my services don't have ads, but I was like, YouTube, I think, has been playing a lot of like only on Apple TV, exclusive to Apple TV series kind of thing. Like, they're really pushing it. So I think, you know, maybe not right now, but maybe, you know, in a year or two, they could be a very, very competitive streaming service.
Yeah, and Rob McElhenney, he's always funny.
Yeah.
So another thing that I've been checking out, the final season over on Hulu, there's a show called Shrill. I believe I've plugged it on the show before. It stars Addie Bryant from SNL, and it's just really, really funny. It's just written really, really well. The seasons are really short, you know, I think like 8 episodes, 30 minutes or less of an episode, so you could crank through, you know, all 3 seasons once they kind of finish this last season, honestly, in like one day on like a weekend. So I'll plug that one just because it's really funny. They got really good jokes, good actors over on that one. But that's been the QuaranStream for me. Mitchells versus the Machines, Mythic Quest, and Shrill.
Well, I'm gonna toss one in here. It's not on the list, but last night I had the we were sitting around. You know, I was able to lay down a little early because we had some storms, and I was able to tap into HBO Max. And what's great about them is they have a history backlog, and I was able to look into a rewatch Shaun of the Dead. You know, one of Edgar Wright's movies, and because I was just needing something in the background to watch, and I haven't watched that forever. But what was cool about that movie is going back and watching now. You know, I haven't watched it in a long time, is seeing that this movie was shot on film, and you can actually see sometimes between when they switch angles, like the film grain of like a dark scene versus like a well lit scene, which was really cool. But also how many actors in that movie have gone on to become like bigger name actors. I forget the guy's name. He played Bilbo in the the Hobbit movies. The newer Hobbit movies.
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman's in there, yeah, for a small cameo. But
where is he in that movie? Because another show we've been watching on we've been watching it on Hulu, but it's FX, is his show Breeders that he stars and he executive produces.
Yeah, so halfway through the movie, he meets another group that's like identical to his.
Oh, the Bizarro group. Yeah. Okay, I remember that.
He's the boyfriend of the equivalent girl there, and then
okay.
The second host of Great British Bake Off, the new one, not Noel, but the other guy. I forget his. Yeah. He's in there as well. He's the Nick Frost character. The
Nick Frost equivalent. Okay.
Gotcha. So it's just fun to see kind of some of those little things. And, again, Bill Nye, everything he does is he's in British everything, right? He was in there. So, there's a lot of little fun things in there. And we just kind of picked that up last time. I was like, oh, okay, great. Which is great because HBO Max is like, oh, here's some other movies, that people are watching for no reason whatsoever. Like the trending. And they're not always new, and that's great because I'm like, I don't want to watch everything new all the time. So that was fun. But let's jump into this. We haven't done news in a while. I've been taking notes, Mike. We got some new stuff. I'm going to start with the biggest news this week. I'm going to jump into this. Marvel dropped early on this week. I think it was like Monday. Here's why we go to the movies kind of video.
A return to the movies hype.
Yeah, and I agree. Yes, I do like going to the movies. There's a time and place to do this. Like, you don't have to tell us every fucking movie is only in theaters. We know it's going to theaters. It's fine. We will probably watch it in theaters, or at least wait till it comes out at home. Like we're not gonna get used to the dual split left and right. But anyway, but this movie went through like a lot of emotional moments through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from intros to action scenes to deaths. It covered the gamut, I think, of everything, which was really cool.
I enjoyed the video because usually I don't let myself watch like fan-made like kind of hype trailers of stuff like that. So this is one of the few times where like this is kind of like a professionally like edited hype thing.
Yeah.
So I was just this is getting me going. Yeah, I'm excited.
And you brought up a really good point. There is a moment where they have like cam footage from the Avengers Endgame where Cap gets the Mjolnir or says Avengers Assemble for the first time.
I have to know because it was great seeing that because that took me down a rabbit hole where I went on YouTube and I typed in theater reactions for a bunch of stuff in like Endgame and Infinity War. And I just had a great time because I love the goosebumps that you get from people like freaking out in the movie theaters. Because like Endgame for a lot of people was the last really big communal theater experience that they've had. I mean, there's been other big exciting movies since Endgame, but nothing to really draw that amount of people into one room at once. Because if you live in a smaller market or a smaller town or something like that, even like big like Marvel movies don't always get the full theater draw. On opening night. So Endgame was just such a big monumental moment, and it's really the last one that we've had. But I just have to know how the call went because that cam footage is owned by, technically, quote unquote, owned by somebody, right? Was it just like some rando in the screen, or like who knows? Maybe it was like a Disney employee or like somebody who worked on the movie. Maybe even just like a technical person who just wanted to get the reaction of that shot. But I just love the idea of like Disney like calling up. I imagine it's like a teenager. Just like some teenage kid is just like, hey kid, we know you took this illegal cam footage and put it up on the internet, and how about we call it even where we won't sue your pants off if you just let us use this footage for our trailer. I just thought it was so funny. I just like to know how that conversation went.
My guess, it was already taken down probably by YouTube. So they're like, hey YouTube, can you like pull your list of flagged footage for Endgame for us?
Give us that IP address and we're gonna send a helicopter over to that house.
Yeah, we'll give him like $50 and some vouchers for Disney World, and then we'll just call it.
Iron Man has to swing by his birthday party. It's suited up and everything, not just a flyby. He has to stop by and shake hands and mingle.
Yes, thank you for the reference to that. Is it Gary Shandling, I believe, who said that? Or
it was I think it was Robert Redford.
It was one of the Hydra people along the way. But yeah, so this video came out and was cool. It recapped everything, and then we're like, okay, it's gonna give us a little bit. We just got the Shang-Chi trailer recently, and we got the new clips from that. But then it kept going. This trailer kept going.
It wasn't just for sizzle hype.
Yeah, it was for everything. So we got our first couple snippets of the Eternals footage in here in this teaser. Mm-hmm. You and me kind of poured over a couple of those a little bit. Why is Kumail Nanjiani's character being followed around by cameras? He's because he's popular. There was a whole thing like, oh my gosh, Marvel forgot to edit out the camera guy in these. I'm like, people are idiots online. Like, they would not do that for these movies. Eternals, and then it went right into the actual movies for the next 2 years with updated titles that we've never even heard before. I didn't put it on here, but the one after Eternals is, of course, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But now we know the one after that, July of 2022, will give us Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Mike.
It does make you wonder if the title is motivated by the tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman, or if that's always what it was going to be. Because either way, it's a great title no matter what. I mean, like Wakanda Forever, like that's the rallying cry that we hear throughout all of his appearances. It's just it's perfect.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. It's tied into that. I saw some theories. People were like, oh, this is going to introduce Doctor Doom because the letters were silver. I'm like, that's a stretch, buddy. Like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But
it does make you wonder, like, if you want to overanalyze the title of just kind of being like a quote from the movie that they thought would be a cool title, what does that mean? Are they saying like is the legacy of Wakanda going to be challenged? If you're saying the word Wakanda in the title, that means maybe the whole story is just about this kind of geolocation. And we've thrown around the ideas of possibly like kingdoms like attacking each other. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a teaser trailer and we'll get to see like the top of Namor's head coming out of the ocean, and everyone will lose their freaking minds. So or Doctor Doom, like there could be like battles of these like kingdoms. I mean, that would make sense if you bring in the title of the the area.
Well, what I'm gonna actually do is take your my thought with this is the Namor idea, right? Like Wakanda Forever. Wakanda's been here thousands of years, right? Atlanteans have been here for thousands of years. So like forever has been like we've been here forever kind of thing. So if you're gonna look at kingdoms being challenged, you take two kingdoms that have been on Earth literally longer than anything else.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been 2 weeks since I've had all of this, since I've been able to talk about superheroes just unfettered by society, and this other idea pops up in my head where I've been thinking of a lot of stuff is going to be changing in the MCU going forward, right? We'll talk about Blade here in a second, but like when the Blade movie comes around, okay, you got to start explaining vampires, right? There's a lot more things that we're going to have to start explaining and bringing into the universe to introduce these characters, because it requires the whole kind of Earth, the realism of Earth in the MCU to kind of start to blow up and expand. And it's going to be a little bit weird, right? Because the only time we've really seen this right now is with like Doctor Strange. And the only way they explained it was just kind of like, oh, it's always been going on. These magical things have always been here, but, we've kind of done it in secret, kind of in the shadows. Not quite like Harry Potter Muggle style, but like, people just don't know that we're kind of here like protecting these realms, right? And that's kind of how they fluffed off the idea that like, oh, they've been here this entire time. It wasn't just like Captain America and Iron Man like starting this whole thing. So it's just like, what's going to happen when Blade comes around, right? Have there just been vampires like all around in secret? Like have all of this stuff been happening in secret and we just don't know it? People have just been oblivious. And that might be the most logical direction to go. But maybe what they do is they explain, oh, the events of Thanos coming from space, doing all this stuff to Earth. Maybe all of these things that have been hiding in the shadows, like Atlantis, of Doctor Doom's like country, all of these things that have just been kind of just on the back burner. It's just like, no. We can't just hide anymore. We're not going to take the back burner. We don't need to hide. Like, screw this. there's aliens out there that are threatening this entire marble that we live on. We're not hiding in the shadows anymore, vampires. Let's get out there on the streets and take what's ours. So maybe that's kind of the shift that we're going to be seeing in these next phases of the MCU.
And I think with the upcoming Eternals movie explaining, thousands of years of them being here, right? They live forever kind of people. And also, it looked like Shang-Chi, the trailer had some history of, Asia.
Some magical kind of stuff going on in the back.
There's probably more here because I think, a lot of the Marvel stuff focuses on either New York or the few times Tony Stark was in California. So I'm like, we have literally the whole rest of the world to look at. Like, what does England do whenever, America has superheroes? Like, what does that look like? What is Wakanda's kind of opening up Africa a little bit. What's Asia look like? The Shang-Chi. We have a lot of stuff to kind of dive into around the globe. And I think they're gonna do it very well. The other thing of that is I think the idea of space, right? You mentioned alien stuff like that, and I think that's where this next movie, The Marvels, will come into. This is Captain Marvel 2, renamed The Marvels. We get to see Captain Marvel's logo, Spectrum's logo, Monica Rambeau from WandaVision, and Miss Marvel herself, Kamala Khan, all on this title reveal for November 11th, 2022, Mike. So this is, I think, the most interesting name. It doesn't have the hero's name in it directly. But all three of these characters, Monica Rambeau, Kamala Khan, and Carol Danvers, have all gone by Miss Marvel at some point in their career in the comic books. So I think this one's fun. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Are they fighting, aliens? Is it, why? I can see why, if I'm going to be honest, Captain Marvel and Kamala Khan have dealings with the Kree because the Kree created Inhumans through Terrigenesis. And, she was, has a personal vendetta against them from her movie. So I don't know where Monica Rambeau comes in this, but I'm excited. I don't know about you. This sounds like a lot of fun.
I feel like with this trio, you really got to make Kamala Khan kind of the comedic relief, not just because like Marvel requires comedy in their movies, but like Monica Rambeau, the little bit that we've seen from her in Captain Marvel, very serious character, not a lot of levity coming from her. Captain Marvel, and I would say the honest, like, fair criticism for her character is that she hasn't really had much character development. But what we have seen from her personality has been slightly cocky, also kind of very serious, but also her memory was kind of gone too. So do we even really know her that much from her own movie? So I feel like you're going to need some levity from a younger character like Kamala to be like, oh, wow, you're my idols, but I'm going to be goofing around here in the background, like stretching my arms and stuff while you guys are doing crazy, wacky stuff. But when you think of Captain Marvel with her power set being so large and so huge, like that either means something comes to Earth that is really, really powerful, or this little girl is hopping on a spaceship and she's going to go on like a freaking crazy journey. And I'm sure her parents are going to be very nervous where her daughter has been. Like, oh, I went out into space. I fought a couple aliens,
Yeah, well, I mean, it could go either way simply because I know, again, she is, an Inhuman, right? Like the Kree could come to like, oh, we're coming to get our Inhumans that we made.
There's been no definitive announcement whether she is an Inhuman or not in the MCU. I'm not saying that it's not likely.
That would be... I think of all the things you could do and all the people who already hate Captain Marvel, this would be the biggest mistake they would ever do, is to like, oh, we're going to change the actual origin. But I'm just saying, like, knowing what we do know about her from the comic book, she is an Inhuman. Kree history, they could come to like, oh, we're going to come and take all of our Inhumans back to Hala kind of thing. So they could go to space. But now where does Monica Rambeau fit into there with her powers to see, the spectrum of energy? I don't know, but yeah, there's some opportunity here. There's a lot going on. So the Marvels, that was another title reveal. Next up, as we already know this one, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is booked for February 17th, 2023. So we're gonna hit that February 17th, 2023. Very excited. We have Kang, actors lined up for that. A little bit going on. I don't know what's going on with this one. Is it gonna be wacky? The Ant-Man movies are probably, as a series, probably on the lower radar people's favorites set of trilogy. So can they take this to the next level? But
yeah, I think probably the bigger question here with this one, how influential is Kang going to be on the MCU? Is this just a character that pops up that is an antagonist to Ant-Man, that he gets thwarted at the end of the movie? I feel like that would be a mistake, because Kang has a very important power set that would really jive with the stuff that they're doing in the MCU moving forward. So I'm curious to see what happens there.
And Kang also has gone by different names across. He's a time traveler, right? He messes with time. He's gone by Immortus. He's gone by I think it was like King Ramatut, and then also Iron Lad, like different iterations of him. as we get into multiverses and time travel and all this other stuff, he could be a longer lasting villain with this. So, knock on wood there. Lastly, I think the biggest surprise announcement, Mike, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, May 6th, 2023. We are under 2 years away from this at this point in time, which is fantastic. Very, very excited to get a date for that and get that announced. And
it's kind of one of the few Marvel movies of recent history where there has been drama around the production of it, right? Because James Gunn went through those somewhat inappropriate tweets. I don't know. It just depends on
he made bad jokes and
depends on how you judge cringy humor, if you will. But it's just so funny. Here we are. We got the release date. We're back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He tweeted out a script cover for his holiday special. So that's on paper at least. So we'll see a lot more from Gamora and the gang.
Yeah. Well, he did announce people who would be in this movie, and Gamora was actually the only person not on that list, ironically.
I only said Gamora and the gang because it rhymed.
yeah. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, the title was also revealed, Mike. I'm sure you saw that as well. And someone kind of pointed out the title cards, the colors of the titles were the people who actually die in the movie. So, the first one, I forget who the first one was. But the second one was obviously Yondu, and the third one, Guardians of the Galaxy, the color title is actually Drax's color. So there's a lot of people freaking out on the internet like Drax is going to get killed off in this one.
There's only so many colors in the world, people. Maybe they just looked good together, and that's it.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's very much a skin pattern, so it could go either way. But also, someone's probably going to die in that. But we'll see what it is. So Guardians 3, May 6, 2023. We are under 2 years from all these movies, Mike. That is including the 4 we're getting this year and the first one for next year. Or is it 2 next year? There should be 4 every year.
I just want the secrets of the Eternals to be unlocked. Yeah. I've told you this before many times off mic. I have no idea what they are, what they do. I always get them confused, and you tell me that's not what they do. I don't know where you got that from. So I'm ready for these characters to be on the screen, and I love Kumail Nanjiani. So
I think again 4 movies this year is huge. I think trying to think of what the other 2 were for next year. Thankfully, I have this page on superheroslate.com with upcoming movie releases where you can go check out all this stuff. It's loading up here. I actually just had it pulled up and close it because I'm not going to need this. Little did I know, Doctor Strange and Thor Love and Thunder. Thor's the other one I was thinking of. I was I couldn't think of it. So we're going to be getting a lot of information in Marvel for the next 2 years. Now, I want to say the end of this teaser did have the Fantastic Four symbol, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing else with that. We have no date. We only have the director. But I also wanted to point out this is missing 2 other movies that have been announced from Marvel. The longer one, the older one, which was actually at Comic-Con that we were at in 2019, which is Blade. Mm-hmm. And also Deadpool 3. I forgot that, they did say, yes, we are working on Deadpool 3. So it sounds like those 2 are a little bit in the pipeline. So I'm going to jump into Blade a little bit because I got a little bit of news for it after everything. So Blade, they said that filming was going to be this September, but they've moved it to next summer because they're working on the script and trying to work on a short list of directors. It sounded like the list of directors are Academy Award winners that Mahershala Ali has worked with before. I know the director of Moonlight was on there and a couple others, but we won't know until they announce something anyway. But it sounds like Blade is kind of taking a back seat to this, to these main movies, right? Now, that makes me think one of 2 things, Mike. Is Blade going to be R-rated for violence?
Oh, I guess I didn't think about that. Possibly. A lot of blood.
Yeah, a lot of blood, a lot of killing vampires. Or is it just something that again, Mahershala Ali, big name actor, right? Huge actor right now. Mm-hmm. Does he just want to take his time and get it right? And they're like, okay, well, we'll just keep working on it until we're satisfied with Blade.
Yeah, and also, who knows? It could just be because the latest time that we see here in the sizzle reel is 2023. And I know technically they did flash the Fantastic Four logo. They've been a lot more loose with the definitions of phases over at the MCU. Mm-hmm. Even if internally they're still using them, maybe Blade is just on the other end of a phase and it's just not ready. Or also maybe they just You know, they just like we've maxed out this trailer. This is enough hype.
Yeah.
You don't want to blow the brains out the back of their head with all of this Blade stuff.
Yeah.
So that could be a positive.
The only reason I that doesn't make sense to me is because Blade was announced before 4 of these movies were. Black Panther, Captain Marvel 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Guardians 3 were not at that Comic-Con we were at. And I'm like, I guess they're just, I mean, like I said, they can take their time. It's Marvel. They can do whatever they want. It would probably make sense, you know, maybe like down there, like, you know, again, there's like a November 3rd, 2023, they could put Blade if they wanted to, like right around Halloween time. So, I don't know. We just got a lot of stuff coming up, and then it's good. Like, it's great when we're like, oh, they've announced 12 things for 3 years. Like, movie wise, this isn't even TV shows. They didn't include anything in there TV wise, but like, oh, we got 12 movies in 3 years. Where the other 2 or 3 we're wanting. So, yeah, knock on wood. What if Fantastic Four, question for you, is the Avengers-esque movie where everybody comes together?
I mean, that would be... I mean, there's so much creative potential with the Fantastic Four. There's so many directions that you can go. There's so many ways you can tell this story of, like, this family of 4... You know, are they going to try to reinvent the wheel? Are they going to go ultimate versions? You know, are they gonna bow to the internet and cast Emily Blunt and
John Krasinski?
John Krasinski. I hope they don't, just because not necessarily I don't like them, but just do what's right, not just what the internet's yelling at you. So there's so many things that you could do, but I mean, like the Fantastic Four. I mean, it just like let's say theoretically, what if Doctor Doom is kind of introduced in the next Wakanda movie? You already got a base him for ready to go, and then I don't know. I'm excited, Chris. I'm excited.
Yeah.
There's so much that can happen.
There's nothing bad out of this, even though we're like, oh, we're the other ones. There's nothing bad out of this. Like, great, we have dates. Things are filming. I'm pretty sure most of these are filming, sooner than later. So, it sounds like they're going to make these release dates. So, knock on wood that they do. I'm going to shift the gears because I was talking about Blade. Something in the realm of mythical creatures and dealing with supernatural stuff is Moon Knight. And Moon Knight is currently filming already, I think, 1 week in. And then we have it looks like a behind-the-scenes shot here of Ethan Hawke on set in a red suit. And he looks like what I'm, some people are familiar with Moon Knight, some people aren't. He looks like the character, the Sun King. Which is, again, the opposite of a Moon Knight, if you will.
Yeah, I guess.
So it looks like that's the character he's playing, but we have no confirmation. It's just again, behind the scenes photos while they're filming in. It looks to be another country, is what I'm going to guess here based on the signage. But any thoughts to this? I mean, this is very, very low res.
It just reminded me that Moon Knight was in development, right? Yeah. I didn't realize that that the cameras were already rolling. So I'm excited to see what happens here. This kind of brings me back around to the whole where have these characters been the whole existence of Earth in the MCU of if Moon Knight is going to be based on like Egypt. Right? Does that mean like stuff mythically has been happening in Egypt all of this time, and then just like the Earth just wasn't privy to it? Because it kind of looks like maybe that's what Shang-Chi is attempting to tell of like, oh, we've had crazy stuff happening in our countries too.
Yeah. Well, and the 10 Rings have been around since Iron Man 1, so that's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I think Moon Knight has an interesting potential here to tell like these interesting things. I want to see. Who's the Oscar Isaac as Moonlight? I want to see him in the outfit. Like that's a costume I want to see, right? Like that sounds pretty cool.
Because it does really make you wonder: can the classic Moon Knight costume that most people are familiar with, like if you Google Moon Knight, is that going to translate live action? It's not the most practical looking outfit, right? Like it's totally white, so I mean, like you're not really hiding in the shadows quite like Batman, right? The pointiness of the hood, I suppose, could be explained.
There's a couple outfits. One where he wears a suit too. Like, there's different versions of, but like to me, he reminds me of kind of like a mummy, right? Like some of it, like it's very like bandagey, like loose, and some of it's more like a mercenary style. And one of them, he has like a white suit and he wears like a tight head mask. But like, again, how's it going to look? Because again, we'll talk about here, Marvel's knocking it out of the park with comic accurate costumes. So like, that's the one we need to see.
I mean, I have heard some like very leveled-headed criticism of the Falcon's costume at the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier because it looks exactly like it does out of the comic books, but like some people are just kind of like, okay, the goggles are a little cheesy though. Like I get practically why somebody flying would need goggles, but it's kind of like everything from the neck down looks badass, but then like his kind of like whole head situation just looks a little goofy. So sometimes even if you do go full comic accurate and just really nail what came off the page, sometimes it still just doesn't look perfect in reality,
Well, I mean, I think that's I'm not going to jump into the people who bitch about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like they always iterate the costumes, right? What you see them last in is not what they're in the next one. So like, I mean, do you remember the first Captain America outfit? Like I watched the Avengers, I think a week ago, and I'm like, Captain America's outfit, that looks stupid as hell. Thank God they like changed it. In the Winter Soldier, he got the more stealthy suit, right? Like, and then on and on, they've always adapted the costume. So I think for a first go, they nail them pretty good, like 95%.
Well, and they got really lucky with some of those Avengers characters with explaining costumes. Like Captain America can look like a star-spangled weirdo because he's supposed to be like a symbol that was originated in World War II, where all of that costume element makes sense. And then like Iron Man being in an iron suit, you don't have to do anything to explain that. Thor is from literally like a different realm where people just dress like that, and then Black Widow's and stealth stuff, Hawkeye is basically the same. So they didn't really have to try too hard explaining those costumes. They got lucky over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you also look at Captain Marvel. She was a spacesuit and she just changes like essentially like a video game, like color the wheel on her arm and it changes her outfit kind of thing. So I think there's they always get like 95% and then they can adapt and iterate and we'll see more as they go. But like I think seeing Moon Knight is going to be interesting, especially because again these TV shows they're starting in the middle. They have a long way to crawl upward if they're going to prove themselves to be on quality with the movies along the way. So. Very excited to see that. The Marvels also got a synopsis. I put this down here. So the Marvels will feature Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. In the film, she'll be joined by Teyonah Parris, who played adult Monica Rambeau, and Ivan Vellani, who appears Miss Marvel in the series. So really, people were very like, which Marvels were going to be in here. The synopsis is pretty much saying here they are. Doesn't tell us anything at all, sadly, but hopefully, we know that the only reason I bring that up is because we have our first leaked look at Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel on set here, and in her costume, she got her mask on. She looks like a different person. I'm gonna be honest than the non-masked version. So maybe they dressed her up first before they were like, okay, we'll make sure.
Chris, that's the whole point of a costume, so you don't get recognized.
She's nailing it. And then you mentioned this is a very shiny costume as well. Looks like the one in her video game.
This almost looks exactly like the skin that you get in the Avengers video game.
Yeah.
Man, we get a lot of costume talk on this episode. Because when I see something like this, I see a very polished suit. I just know that like logically a teenager cannot make this. Even if they're in like a home ec class right now where they're learning how to use the sewing machine, even if she loved sewing as a kid her whole life, like just nobody's making this. Like I say the same thing about the Spider-Man suit as well. Like you have to dispense a lot of belief to imagine like a teenager is making this. So basically the long-winded way, I think somebody gives this to her. I don't know exactly who it is, but this looks like a gift.
Well, if you know her powers, she can stretch and morph as well. So she's not making a suit that will stretch and morph like her body does when she's powered up.
She doesn't have those materials on hand.
Yeah. So, and it also looks very much like, I'm going to be honest. If there's a show that has a cameo from a movie person, this could be a Brie Larson cameo because the V on her neck looks like some of the outfits she wore as Captain Marvel and the shoulder pads.
Yeah, you would almost have to, right? Because if she's teed up to go into the Marvels movie, like I feel like you got to introduce Carol Danvers in her show.
Yeah, exactly. And she's very much a fan. Like some of the earlier stuff we saw leaked, she was in the Carol Danvers Halloween costumes as well. So I think knowing her powers, again, I agree. She didn't make this. This was gifted to her. Where's it come from? We don't know. So we got some questions here. But I think again, just snapped photo from a paparazzi. pretty good attempt here. Like I said, maybe not perfect in action, but like 95%. I look at that and I know who that is, right? Like right away. So check that out in our show notes. And lastly, the other costume we'll talk about, Mike, is a Hawkeye costume. So we have a picture here of Jeremy Renner with the actress who plays Echo, or is it Echo? I believe it's one of the heroes or villains in this, but he is very much wearing the "My Life is a Weapon" outfit here, right? Like this is.
Yeah, that's Matt Fraction for sure. It makes you wonder. But the thing is, for Jeremy Renner / Hawkeye, this isn't really a costume for him, right? He's just like putting on whatever like shield under armor he has in the back of the closet, right? Yeah. It's just like, oh, this is just my work clothes. So this one just happens to be when they gave me purple stuff, back in like the early 2000s. So I'll just throw this one on, and this is what I got.
It's got the little reverse carrot symbol looking thing, which is like Hawkeye's symbol across everything. In the comic books and video games and now movies. So like they've really like again dove into the comic book realm. Like, okay, this is an outfit he wore in this run that we're kind of basing this off of. Let someone make it. We don't have to explain how he got it. Like you said, he can be like, yeah, we had it in a shield locker or whatever. But
yeah, I've been hearing some conversation where people are assuming that Jeremy Renner is not going to be in this show that much. Like, he might just be in the first episode that gets Haley Steinfeld established, and then it's really just going to be a Haley Steinfeld show. And I feel like I just totally disagree. I think this is very much Jeremy Renner will be in every single episode, and it's just going to be kind of almost like a buddy cop thing from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a season 2 of the show, I could easily see him not being in it at all, but I think he's going to be I've seen a lot of behind the scenes and like on set photos and videos of him in it. Like, if they're filming that much with him in it, like there's no way he's just in the first episode and last episode. I also think this will deal with not necessarily buddy cop, but maybe more of he's dealing with maybe some of the people he killed with while everyone was dead. Maybe their families came back when he was Ronin. Some Ronin stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so like those people came back, right? So now they've got like, well, who killed our family, or who killed the they maybe still be bad guys, but who killed these people while he was gone? Oh, it's Hawkeye. He needs to go take care of it, and he's probably. Again, I've not heard anything of his family being in this, so maybe he goes back to where like he was living in the city and has to deal with some of that first along the way.
It'll be interesting because since we just talked about Miss Marvel, I mean Jeremy Renner like Hawkeye is a little bit more in the realm of WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, where we're just kind of doing more stories with characters we already know. And, is this really adding to the MCU, or is this just more supplemental? Miss Marvel will kind of be the first Disney Plus show where we're getting a fully brand new character. Everything's everything's brand new, like a starting point. So that'll almost be more like, oh, this is an origin story film that we've put into a TV show. Yeah. So it seems like basically Miss Marvel would be more required viewing more than maybe some of the other stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, I think so as well. And this will just be supplemental, maybe fill in Hawkeye's time during the 5 years while he was gone, or like. I also think the TV shows are building towards the Young Avengers, based on the again Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, possibly Wanda's kids if they come back to reality kind of thing. So I think there's an opportunity to lead towards a Young Avengers in a couple years based on all this. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's we don't like I said we don't normally talk about a lot of costumes, but this week they're all filming outside. Man, weather's getting nice. They're out there. I'm gonna hit you with a 2-parter here. There's some fun stuff here. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Disney Plus has relegated them to the Marvel Legacy tab on the streaming service, where Inhumans and Runaways and Agent Carter all live. So what this means is probably Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer. And more so just confirming it is not canon. You do not need to watch it. It will not affect the MCU as a whole. It's just fun stuff.
You've lost your canon badge. We've appreciated everything you've done for here at the business, but unfortunately we're going to have to put you under the Legacy tab. I mean, this could be good news for you though, because if the Inhumans live under that Legacy tab, that means we're rebooting them basically. You are in reboot territory if you are in this tab.
You were just a show that we don't talk about anymore, kind of thing. Yes. X-Men. The only reason everyone's like, well, what does this mean? The X-Men movies, the Fantastic Four movies, they all live here under this Legacy tab, right? Like anything that is not MCU direct is under Legacy. So, while I have enjoyed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole, this does not upset me that it is no longer canon and required viewing. So
they tried their best to make it canon, to tie it into the Winter Soldier movie, but the ratings were just kind of all over the place. That they couldn't quite get the same kind of audience domination that the movie universe was getting.
They didn't meet their promise that it's all connected, right? They didn't meet that promise, and I don't think it's either the TV show fault or the movie's fault. I blame Jeff Loeb directly.
It's definitely the relationships that Jeff Loeb had at that studio that made things difficult. And Kevin
Feige's like, I want to control my stuff. So I think they can exist separately. They don't have to touch. It's fun that S.H.I.E.L.D. does reference those events. Again, Lady Sif showed up in there. Samuel L. Jackson even came into an episode. But they don't have to affect the world at large, and that's fine, because now that we have these new shows on Disney Plus, those are the ones that affect the world at large. So thankfully the whole series is on there. You can go watch it. I think whenever Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. let go of the universe as a whole, the MCU, with space travel and time travel and all this other fun stuff, it became a much better show, right? Like, it wasn't trying to ride the coattails of the MCU. It was creating its own path, and it became really fun.
Just open up YouTube. Yep. Find the YouTube channel Man of Recaps, and he has recapped the entire series of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It'll take a little while. It's like a 45-minute endeavor to jump in, but you can just speed run Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and get it all in.
Now, I didn't write it here because there are rumors that some of these characters fit into the Daredevil Jessica Jones realm, where they could bring Quake into the MCU with the same actress, Chloe Bennett, as soon as she's wrapped up with her responsibilities on the Powerpuff Girls live-action show. But, they could definitely do that if they wanted to and reboot them into the MCU at large. So you don't have to watch that list that someone compiled, like, hey, if you want to watch the MCU in order, you got to watch half of this episode, then the movie, and then another half of the episode. You don't have to do that anymore. It's much more streamlined. So good for it. Gonna hit you with some good news, Mike. Loki, Tom Hiddleston himself got on a video and announced that it is moved up. We are getting Loki 2 days earlier, on June 9th, 2021. And with that, a Wednesday release. Every episode will drop on Wednesday for Loki going forward.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's weird, though. Wednesday isn't necessarily I don't know. I suppose the broadcast TV landscape is in a state of flux, but I don't remember Wednesday being a premium night when I was a kid. It was usually like Mondays and like Thursdays.
Like the Sundays.
Yeah, Sundays. Sorry, I was thinking like weekday in general. But yeah, Sundays, those were big days. Really, I don't know if we got any confirmation of this, but since they're hitting a Wednesday, I'm just hoping they change their midnight release schedule. Chris can't be waking up at dawn anymore to catch this stuff before he goes to work. Like, he's got things to do. We all have things to do, and we don't want to be spoiled on the internet. So I wish they would settle at least on like a 6 p.m. Eastern, or like a 9 p.m. Eastern, like 6 p.m. West Coast. Just give us a normal release window. Right,
exactly. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that throughout the day, a work day and a Wednesday.
Yeah. Because if they're saying Wednesday, if they are going by the standard of what they've done so far, that means it's technically Tuesday night at midnight, so it's just like nobody. It's a weekday. You're making the problem actually worse, because there are some people out there who could justify, kind of slacking off on like a Friday and being able to cram it in before the spoilers roll in, right? Yep. You're a little bit more flexible at the end of the work week, but this is a Wednesday. You can't slack off in the middle of the week at work,
A Wednesday in a world where we're starting to go back to the offices, even at that. Like, if I was working at home on Wednesdays, I'd make this happen, but as vaccine rates increase, people start having to go back into the office. This is even worse for me at the end of the day, if I'm going to be honest with you.
And I feel like the other thing that we can glean from this is the catalog is ramping up over. I mean, I feel like you don't move the Wednesdays unless you have stuff coming out on Fridays as well. So I mean, Disney Plus, they're growing and expanding.
And I was gonna say, what's coming out on Fridays during all this?
What's that?
The Bad Batch. Star Wars has already booked Fridays for the next 4 months. A 16 episode season, Mike, of the show. I expected 5, maybe 6. of a series. They have 16 episodes of the Bad Batch right now.
That's
Mike.
beefy. They could have gotten greedy and divided that up into 2 seasons, and no one would have blinked an eye.
Nope, not at all. But they dropped episode 1 on May 4th, right? Star Wars Day, May the 4th. 70-minute episode 1, even at that. That could have been 2 episodes easily, like WandaVision did. And then the other episode came out on Friday, episode 2. I don't know if you've caught it yet or not. But for the next 4 months, you get Bad Batch on Fridays, Mike. So that's why they're doing this.
This is exactly what happens when Dave Filoni becomes a golden goose with the Mandalorian over at Disney Plus. He's just like, oh, I'm making the Bad Batch and I'm doing it exactly how I want. Nobody's going to tell me no. First episode, 70 minutes. I'm not listening to any executive that wants to get another episode out of this. We're doing what we want. No, I'm not cutting that. I'm making you Mandalorian. I'm doing whatever I want. Bad Batch, 16 episodes. Take it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're like, we got Star Wars. I mean, your Marvel stuff might come out eventually. I don't know, but we already got animation done, right? Like we've already written this, so we're good to go. But yeah. So Bad Batch, Mike. I mean, we could talk vague spoilers, maybe a little bit about this, but I mean, I think this is the animation quality of the show. I think I messaged this has kicked up so much since the initial launch of this show in 2008, and I say this because it tells me to rewatch this show right afterwards, right? And if you click play episode 1, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, why does this show look so bad now? Because the new one has grown so much. And, you know, what's fun about the Bad Batch is literally episode 1 and episode 2 reference other Star Wars shows Dave Filoni has done already. They are not holding back at all. So I think it's fun. I watched a video, the voice actor, D. Bradley Baker, who used to be the announcer on Legends of the Hidden Temple before he was a voice actor, does all the clone troopers, every one of the Bad Batch, even though they all talk differently. He still does them all, and that's just fantastic to me. The production of the show, more than the story right now, is blowing my mind. So I'm loving it. I'm excited to watch this for the next 4 months. What about you?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be one of those people that waits until a little bit more is out there, because like 16 weeks. I mean, like I think I'd rather like binge a large chunk of it. So I'll be waiting in the.
Well, hopefully nothing spoilery drops, and if it does, I'll tell you which section of episodes to binge through. Yeah, we
all know what we're waiting for. We're waiting to see if Grogu pops up in this show, and I just have a feeling that like. I'm going to open up Twitter one day on a Friday and 10 weeks from now or something like that. And I'm going to be like, oh, Grogu's trending. I wonder why he's trending. And then it's just like, oh, it's Friday. Yeah. Oh, I know why he's trending today.
Yeah. So these are also, I think the newer episodes are 20 minutes. So they're pretty bite-sized chunks. Did you end up catching the Bad Batch on last season of the Clone Wars at all yet?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, that's a good like little, I think 3 or 4 episode arc you should watch before we jump in here. So, got to watch that to get these, but I think it's really good. I think it's a fun show. So next 4 months, all the way through the summer, Mike, we're going to be catching the Bad Batch. Speaking of Star Wars, May the 4th, we didn't get a whole lot of Star Wars announcements, but we got that first look at that lightsaber we've been talking about, Mike. The Star Wars announced their retractable light-up lightsaber that we have been obsessed over for a couple months now. And sadly, it's coming to the cruise ship. The cast members get it there first, but you know, I expect 3 years they'll make this available for retail for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, they're throwing their gold bricks at Disney for this thing.
Oh yeah, it's a little shorter than I expected, you know, but you know, this is iteration 1, right? Like, hey, this is the one you're gonna take out and fling around, you know, with the people on the ship. So you know, we'll make it smaller, we'll make it, you know, better, longer later on. So. You said you thought this would be like $200 when it retails.
Oh yeah, because I was a fool.
Yeah, yeah, and then I was like, well, the Disney build your own lightsabers that don't extend are $215 minimum. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be $300 plus if this thing comes out for us. Nothing you're gonna buy at Walmart, that's for sure.
Yeah, so. You know, now that you mentioned the length, you know, I paused the little YouTube video here where they do it. It does look like the hilt is at least, I want to say, 20 to 25% longer than what you typically see on a lightsaber, even on screen. So they're cramming a lot more tech in there. And in relation to now this larger hilt, the blade does seem a little bit shorter, maybe just because the hilt's so much bigger. Yeah. I mean, the speed at which it comes out is pretty impressive. Logically, a lightsaber would turn on instantaneously, but with movie magic, they kind of put a little bit of a delay to it. And then realistically, when you're making something mechanical, it comes out much shorter. It's still really, really cool. Obviously, everybody just wants to put their hands on it. I would never spend, even if this was $200, I would never spend $200 on it just to have it. But I would love to just hold it, play around with it for a little bit, and be like, okay, I got it out of my system now. This was really, really cool.
I dropped 200 on this in a heartbeat. I'm not going to
But you could put it on the shelf next to all your like Funkos. You need your own shelf. Would it be a shelf though? Because if you could it extend laterally, or is it only meant to extend upright? Because this person is not doing a whole lot of motion.
Well, that second clip I showed you, it's not on here, but they have it downwards. Remember, like where they
Oh yeah. Does it come out laterally?
Yeah, it comes out that way too. What I would do is actually hang it on a wall, like on a hanger, rather than a shelf.
No, what you gotta do is, this thing's already gonna be super expensive, so you gotta make it like Alexa or Google compatible, right? I mean, how cool would that be? Of just like, hey, like, unfortunately,
Careful.
I don't think that there's like a canon Star Wars phrase that people say. There's no one-liner that anybody shouts when it opens. But wouldn't it be so cool if you told your smart assistant, like, may the Force be with you, and then your lightsaber pops up and it's like glowing in the corner? That would be so rad. Well, somebody's already got the Raspberry Pi computer ready to go as soon as they get this.
Chances are someone's just built like an extendable shelf with a motor that does that already, like some motorized like blinds that push it out with a light strip on it. You're like,
imagine these will obviously come in different colors. If not, you could buy one that even you can manually change the color with, since it's LEDs on the inside. Imagine if you had two of them that cross, so it's almost kind of like a super nerdy beaded curtain, right? It's just like, you're not allowed to cross into my office while the lightsabers are extended.
That you put up a motion activator so you wave and they close.
Oh, that would be rad. Like if you were like I could see this being more of like a Sith thing, right? Like you're walking down the hallway. Like this is kind of like you're approaching your teenager's room, right? And he's just like, no, the lightsabers go up. It's like, no, you can't enter my room. That would be expensive, but cool.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be someone with a tech mind could probably do that. But yeah, I mean, sadly, it's not available for us yet, but it probably will be, in several years. So check it out. Check out the video. If you've bought one at Star Wars, if you've built your own lightsaber, send it to us. I want to know what those look like. I want to know what your Build-A-Saber kind of looks like there. So I'm interested. DC's Fandome's coming back, Mike. It's going to be off the dome. Man. October 16th, 2021. We got a ways away. We're like halfway there. Yeah. So
it makes you wonder, is this just because Comic-Con is delayed again, or is this just a bigger sign that like conventions aren't as necessary anymore? Because we kind of see this also going on with the other adjacent nerd convention, E3. I think all of the big makers don't really commit to that convention anymore. They still kind of do announcements around the convention, but it's nothing's I don't think is associated with the event.
No, so this year Nintendo and Xbox are both there, along with EA and a couple. Like E3 actually, I think is the other way. It's got more big names to it, but there's going to be less people there, kind of thing. However, the Fandome is interesting because they only announced it a month before last time or something like that. So no, we're already going to plan a Fandome. I think DC might forego Comic-Con in general. Years to come if they can keep doing this up with Fandome.
Yeah. Or they go back to maybe there's going to be such a desire, like a craving to go back out into the world when things are normal, like that they really going to want to connect with people physically, and then we'll get to see the literal dome at Comic-Con. You'll be walking on the floor like, we've erected a dome in this exhibit center, please enter the dome and look at our exclusives.
Yeah, maybe they'll figure out a way to make Hall H a dome for these showings. But I think, current projects we're expected to see from DC, they have a really good lineup coming. The Batman, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, Black Adam, The Flash is now filming, possibly some shows like Superman, maybe the Superman movie we'll talk about in a second, Green Lantern show, Zatanna show, and Batgirl. There's a lot of potential here for this fandom to give us stuff that we don't know anything about, right? So I think the only other movie they had this year is Suicide Squad before this comes out?
I think yeah, I believe so.
So, I think this is great. I mean, I want to see their HBO Max stuff. I think that's the biggest question we both have, right? Like, where is the, what's his name? Is it Berlanti? And was it the Guggenheim's the other guy who's working on that stuff as well? Like, what do those Berlanti shows look like on HBO Max?
Yeah, I've been saying this offline in the group chat, but like I've been very casually working my way through Titans, and it just very much screams CW show with a little bit more money and a little bit more edge. I don't feel like necessarily the quality of the show is that much better. You just kind of get access to more swear words and a little bit more money. So I definitely don't want to see that with the Green Lantern, even though like some parts of Titans have been entertaining. I want to see like a high-class streaming experience for Green Lantern, because that show is going to be competing on the grounds of like WandaVision, Falcon, Loki, all of these Disney shows.
And it better be effects heavy. I mean, if it's not, that's not Green Lantern at all. Like,
you can't. It's Green Lantern by just its nature is green, translucent, 3D objects all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if they meet up with other color lanterns, like you need to have that effect down. In lock before you even start the show, kind of thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think there's the Superman thing. I think is the most interesting to me, and we'll jump into that here because this is the J.J. Abrams film, right? And right now they said there's been some pushback. Ta-Nehisi Coates, I'm probably butchering his name completely, is writing the film, the movie. He wrote Black Panther for a while when the movie came out as well. But this new film will not be a different version of Superman, as we recently kind of discussed. It will be Kal-El of Superman. Now, will he be, a black Superman? Quite possibly, and he could still be Kal-El and not have to change it. But he could become, rather than Clark Kent, he could become I want to say Calvin Harris, but I want to say that's like a singer. Whoever that version of his secret identity was at the end of the day, kind of thing.
Yeah, This is the fun part of the podcast now where I get to geek out about Superman, because I'm still watching Smallville. Even though we have been moving new places in the last couple of weeks, we have been watching Smallville. The night before we moved, we watched it as soon as we got the TV back plugged in. So we're working through the Smallville catalog, which will make some of our listeners happy. I think the title of the movie, if it does indeed end up being called Kal-El, I think is just kind of funny, just because that's the trend for like all superhero movies that have so many iterations. You run out of titles, like The Dark Knight, The Batman,
Son of Sun,
Batman.
Night of Night.
Exactly. So it's just like, well, we've already used Man of Steel, we've already used Superman. What other names does he have? Kal-El, and then in like 10 years, they'll just call it like Kent or Clark Kent or something like that when they need another title. So I'm curious. I wonder if Michael B. Jordan is still in the conversation. Possibly, that rumor, must have been some truth to it, right? Even if it was, I don't want to say it was a joke, but it's the saying of even every joke has a hint of truth to it. So every rumor even has a hint of truth.
His name's on a dartboard somewhere, I think, right? We've talked about it. His name's at the top of that dry erase board. Like, can we get Michael B. Jordan? Yeah. If not, okay, we're going to move on. But he's always at the top of that list.
Yeah, and it does make you wonder more broadly about Warner Brothers and the DC strategy, because, there has been also rumors and talks that the Flash movie might end up doing the whole Flashpoint thing, where we're going to condense all of this into kind of two timelines, right? There's going to be this crazy, wacky, messy timeline that kind of Zack Snyder created, and then it seems like we're going to have this cleaner timeline that Matt Reeves is creating with Batman. So is this...
Where's the Joker live?
Maybe it's in the crazy Zack Snyder verse, if you will. Just in that weird mishmash world, but it's like back in time too. So it's just like, if you condense that, like, does that mean like Joaquin Phoenix is getting thrown into the future? But he's so crazy to begin with. It doesn't really matter what decade he's in. He's just giggling, no matter the decade. But yeah, it does make you wonder: is this Kal-El character going to be kind of in this new, fresh, smells like a baby's bottom timeline of Matt Reeves, or is he going to go into the crazy kind of, who knows, maybe we'll eventually get to that weird nightmare world that Snyder created, but sandbox timeline.
But in Snyder's verse, he already has Superman though, so I don't think they'd put him in there.
Well, I guess it depends what happens with the Flash, right? Maybe they'll announce a brand new world that we never heard of before, and then condense it, and that's where he comes from.
Well, I give you that, but I think if they put him in Zack Snyder's universe, that's just going to open up a whole nother can of worms with the Snyder people. Because they still won't stop, man. They still won't.
Yeah, I saw some people when this news was kind of announced last week. They were just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you would announce this on Henry Cavill's birthday. Oh, how bad must he feel? You're doing this on his birthday." People, you absolutely have to stop groveling to celebrities, especially of his caliber. He has more money than you'll ever see in your entire life. Unfortunately, he is 1,000 times more handsome than any of us will ever be at any age in our lives. He has nothing but a smooth sailing life ahead of him. Do not go on Twitter and complain that this happened on his birthday. He has 30 projects on his desk that he's juggling and thinking about. There's probably like a Mission Impossible spinoff. Did he die in that Mission Impossible movie? Even if he did, they'll bring him back. They're making a zombie timeline for Mission Impossible.
The Witcher.
He has all of this stuff on his desk. He's doing The Witcher.
He's building
got
computers.
So
I've seen him build computers. He could join Geek Squad and be fine.
Yeah. It's just like, come on, people. You need to have a better scope of your life, and you need to detach a little bit from these individuals. Like, I'm not saying that you can't absolutely love a franchise, because we obviously do. We've been doing a podcast every Sunday for like the last 6 years now or whatever, over 300 weeks. But it's just like, you got to detach yourself a little bit from these people, because people are not perfect. And as we've seen, when they mess up, like, you're going to lose part of your personality if somebody does something wrong.
Well, the other thing is, again, how many Batmans have we had since Tim Burton's Batman, right? Like 4, 5, and yet, like, they don't, like, oh my gosh, you're going to do this to Michael Keaton on the day that Multiplicity came out? On the history, you're going to announce another Batman. I mean, he's still, again, playing Batman in the Flash, but like, actors, like, they're here to play a role for a limited time. They know this, right? Like, there's no guarantee there's going to be a tomorrow. There's no guarantee of a franchise. They get it more than the hardcore fans ever will. So Henry Cavill, I'm sure he's just like, yeah, that's fine. I've met my contract. I'm getting residuals for all the other Batmans or Superman stuff I was in. I'll be fine. Totally fine.
And also, not intended as hate at all. I think Henry Cavill's great. I'm looking forward to The Witcher season 2.
Yeah, he's doing lots of stuff. I mean, I think he's fine. Like, mustache or not, he's great.
I love his gravelly voice. I want more of that. He's not gravelly when he's Superman, so I'd rather him be The Witcher.
Exactly. Great and everything. Also, they did say J.J. Abrams will probably not direct this movie. So, less lens flares, Mike. We're good. It's fine. What's the last movie he did? Oh, Rise of Skywalker. That's right. Don't want that. I mean, J.J. Abrams, he's a good, competent director. There was just no plan for that trilogy. He made a Star Wars movie, right? Like, it's still Star Wars. The story just was shit. So, no, I'm not gonna fault him for that. So, moving on. The Batman, the last bit of thing. Mike, did you watch this footage of the Batman?
Yeah,
so
I checked it out.
There's like it's some of like behind the scenes kind of like preview with the director Matt Reeves. He looks weird when he's shaved, by the way. I've only seen him with his little goatee and beard. But they show like Zoe Kravitz. She's not really Catwoman when this movie starts, they say, but like she'll become Catwoman. Very, very. It looks. I'm excited to see more of the Batman, Mike. This looks like a really fun movie. Really.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, this is the best fresh start that Warner Brothers could possibly have. Right. Batman is a AAA S tier property character. He's been around the second longest. Right. The Superman, the original Superman stuff was. What was that? 60s, 70s,
30s,
70s. Right. Well, no, I was thinking of...
TV stuff?
Yeah, no, the main superhero movies. Why can't I think of his names?
Christopher Reeve.
Christopher Reeve. That's why I was getting confused
70s,
because I kept wanting to say 80s. Matt Reeves. Like, that is not right. Matt Reeves did not play Superman.
Yeah. But Batman had the TV shows. The only reason I'm going to give they're about the same. They're
Either way you shake it out. Batman, what a high quality character. So if you were going to try to reboot this mess that you created, this is a great place to start, right? So it makes me wonder. I hope this is a new starting ground, but I hope also there's not a nightmare of franchise play that they have to do here. Hopefully Matt Reeves strolled in and is just like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I want to make a great Batman movie. You know, I want to develop Catwoman a little bit more because we've really only seen her in one other Batman
what about
movie.
her solo movie?
Oh God! Well, I guess also she was in the Dark Knight Rises, but she was much more secondary compared to Michelle Pfeiffer's take on the character. So it's like, all right, I want to do something new with Batwoman. You know, we're gonna develop Commissioner Gordon a little bit more. Who knows if he's actually getting his own TV show or not, or what that's going to be called. But it seems like they're trying to start something, but not overstep too much. So maybe they'll just start with a solid ground and then. Maybe I'm not saying everybody has to do everything the way Kevin Feige did it, but Kevin Feige was smart in the way of they started slow and then they geared up, and that's the right way to go. But it kind of takes a little bit of patience, which seems like Hollywood does not have.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think if they don't merge the timelines, they don't franchise everything into one world, I'll be super fine with that. Let Batman have his own little world. Matt Reeves' Batman. Let the Joker have his own little world. Let I think Shazam is in the larger, like the other larger DCEU people exist. I think it's fine. I don't think we need one big thing. And if Matt Reeves' Batman, looks like, again, it's got a different look. It's got Colin Farrell as a Penguin, kind of thing, is a different look. I think if it wants to tell its own story and be its own timeline at a different era, that's perfectly fine as well.
Who knows? Maybe they're going to just go opposite to what everybody thinks, right? And they're just going to make an extended Batman universe. Like, no, Superman's never going to show up in this. We're going to make 20 years of Batman continuity. We're going to make 4 Batman movies. Batman's going to die, or he's going to drop off the face of the earth, and you're not going to see him for 10 years. And then we're going to make a bunch of awesome Nightwing movies that never have been made before. He's going to pick up the mantle. We're going to tell these crazy stories. And then we're going to bring Batman back. We're going to bring what's the actor's name who's playing Batman now?
Michael Keaton or Robert Pattinson?
Robert Pattinson. Yeah, we're going to bring back Robert Pattinson when he's 50 years old, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be old Batman again, and then maybe we'll give you Superman. So who knows? Who knows? Movies, Hollywood, you can never predict it. Well, that's the thing I love the most about this podcast and also this town and the work that they do. As soon as you think you got it figured out, somebody comes in and does something totally unique, totally different, a new angle at it, and then it just changes everything, and then you make people look like fools, like the thing that you sent the other day of these no-names that have been cast in Marvel's Thor movie, Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth. These nobodies, they're really rolling the dice on these two, so it's like those are the moments that I kind of live for.
Yeah, exactly. We love being surprised and like I said, getting new news. But with Batman, there will always be a Batman movie in development no matter what we want. So whether they have multiple Batman in different universes, that's fine with me, as long as we're getting quality superhero movies, Mike. That's what we need, quality over quantity. So got that going. All right, that's the show for this week, man. Let's wrap up 2 weeks of a little bit of news here. So
I have been energized by the nerdness.
We will be back next week with more. We'll keep it going. We'll keep rolling. Hopefully, we'll get some big news this week. Again, I love when the news drops, Mike. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they follow you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, Valdan, or Instagram, Valdan87. People know more about our show, listen to some of our reviews, like of Mortal Kombat. Or what was the other thing that came out with Mortal Kombat? I don't know. We did 2 reviews that weekend. They can go listen to that. Where can they find all that stuff at?
Oh, Chris, you're talking about Godzilla vs. King Kong, baby. Those are all
was that that was the same weekend. Those were both HBO Max.
Oh, not the same weekend, but HBO Max.
Yeah.
But you can find all that stuff at superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show, and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to see that, BTS and see that little Catwoman doing some cartwheels and stuff. We didn't really talk about what she was doing in that trailer, but she was just kind of in literally a cat suit, doing backflips and stuff and
Catwoman shit.
Yeah, Catwoman shit. can find that in our show notes at superheroslate.com. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. You love it when you reach out. Chris wants to see your lightsabers, folks.
Show me your lightsabers, wink, wink.
Show him your lightsabers. And, we don't want to hear any zipper sound effects on pants. That's not what we're talking about. Show Chris your lightsabers. We love our super fans. If you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week. We promise. We don't take vacations very often, so strap yourself in. We'll be here next week, folks.
Yep, we will see you then.
All right, bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Cursed with sunshine, Chris. I don't know what to tell you.
Tragic. I feel bad for you.